local missions by creating a consistent program. So we don't just let anyone present. We want to make sure they're not selling to you. They're here to share their challenges and their journey so that you learn from their journey, but you also can help those entrepreneurs with their challenges. We also, if, for instance, the entrepreneur who was going to present today canceled yesterday, we come up with programs to help all of you with your entrepreneurial journey. And so we do have something coming up for that. And we also want to highlight the uniqueness and value of our local startup community, because we have amazing different organizations and companies. And when you guys start working together, it makes things even better. So I love to see it when that happens. And we are a national program, but this is our region. And you can see Albuquerque is all by itself over there in New Mexico. And a lot of organizations throughout Texas and other states. If you do have a company and you have presented here at Albuquerque, consider applying to other cities. A lot of them are doing online virtual versions of 1 Million Cups. So you could present all over the US if you're looking to expand your company. And our key pillars, again, we don't want entrepreneurs to pitch to our audience because we are not really usually the people who are going to buy their product, but we are the people who are going to help them in their journey. So we want to see presentations, not pitches. We love to see authentic connections, not networking. So a lot of us don't think of networking really as a negative thing. But what I mean is just walking up to someone and handing their business card and walking away, right? We talk to each other, we connect, and we make real connections. And it's run for the community, by the community, which you'll see that in a moment. And we want to be radically and intentionally inclusive. So we want to see all kinds of entrepreneurs and all kinds of businesses. Now, if you have a business, please consider applying. We'd love to see you on our stage and sharing your journey. Once you apply, you get assigned a coach. The coach runs you through the process of the presentation, and you get to practice on us, and then you get to present to this great group. And this is our community of organizers. So we have Paul, Lisa, Eric, Bobsy, Adam, I'm Sonia doing, and then we have Charles, our newest team member. Yay, Charles. And I appreciate all of them because every week, even when we have an entrepreneur cancel on us at the last minute, we can still come up with the magic. So thank you, team. You're awesome. And our sponsors, we have Fat Pipe ABQ, which both Lisa and Adam are there today, working at two ends of the building. And if you ever need a space, maybe you can't stand being at home with all the people in your family, go rent a space at Fat Pipe, high-speed internet, kitchen. It's a great space to work from. We also have Loza and Loza Intellectual Property. They usually buy our coffee someday when we're back together. More Than Organized gets our creamer. Jason Collin Photography, which I know Jason's here somewhere. He is our official photographer. And then we have Noventum Custom Software. They normally bring the donuts, and I miss those donuts, especially the apple fritter donuts. Those were really good. And next up, so because our entrepreneur canceled on us yesterday, Paul has a special product for us today.
Good morning. So one of the most valuable things you can do with your time, now that we're at home a lot, is you can develop an elevator pitch. So you're constantly meeting people. I know I go to a crazy number of Zoom meetings every week, and sometimes there's a new person and they say, well, who are you and what do you do? So you don't want to ramble and you don't want to take 2.5 minutes to do that. So the way to answer that question is to give somebody, a micro pitch that's like, this is who I am, this is what I do. And the purpose of that is for them to decide whether they're interested in asking a follow-up question. And then you have an elevator pitch. But so what I'm going to do is at the end of last year, we did a set of workshops, and I did a workshop on constructing elevator pitches and your micro pitch. And I'll give you mine, and I'll show you how it's put together, but I'll also give people an opportunity to do that. So imagine that we're meeting in person and we're mingling around the coffee, and you haven't met me. And you say, well, who are you? And I have my business card. So I give you my business card and I say, I'm Paul Sauter. I'm founder and chief scientific officer of Equiseek. We develop and sell genetic tests for horses. Done. Okay. So you should be able to say in one sentence, what your company does, right? And then if somebody says, well, genetic tests for horses, you test, ancestry, is it pedigree stuff? What are you doing? Right now you have their interest and you're ready to follow up with your actual elevator pitch. In my case, it's 22 seconds. So, and it is completely scripted, and I've done it hundreds of times. So if you say, well, what kind of genetic tests for horses do you do? I say, well, for horse breeders seeking to breed sound horses, Equiseek's myopathy panel is a DNA test that identifies horses at risk for a muscle wasting disease before they develop symptoms. And unlike muscle biopsy, Equiseek's DNA test is non-invasive. We just need a hair sample, right? So that's everything you need to know about my company. And if somebody says, oh, that's interesting, I sell hat pins, so they're not interested and they can move on, and you haven't wasted any of their time, right? And if they say, oh, that's interesting, my uncle owns a quarter horse ranch, maybe I should put you in touch with him. It's like, yes, you should, right? So they're either interested in you because they now understand what you're doing, and there's a possibility of making an actual connection, or they're in the hat pin manufacturing business, and that's just not going to work for you, right? So it's a courtesy to other people to be prepared to do that first, that micro pitch, and if they say, well, I think that's animal cruelty, I don't want to talk to you, you only wasted 3 sentences of their time. And if they're ready for the 22-second pitch, they're like, oh, well, that's interesting to them and you might make a connection, or it's not, but it's efficient, right? So it's like, think of working the room at 1 Million Cups in those happy days when we're standing around with coffee and donuts, and it's speed dating, right? You're going through the room, you're talking to people you've never met, and you're seeing if you can make some kind of connection. So right now, I mean, some of you folks were in the workshop on elevator pitch, and you saw the structure, and people started working on it. I wonder if anybody would be willing to step up and say, here's my micro pitch. It's like 2 sentences, and with my business card, and here's my elevator pitch, which is under a minute. Does anybody want to do that?
I'm willing to be a volunteer among that group.
Okay, so
Janet
step up and go for it. Sonia, you do yours.
Okay, so this is a new company, so I only just wrote this. So the short version, right? You wanted to hear that?
Yeah, the short version first.
Okay. The Women's Thriller Writers Association produces stories and podcasts that will keep you entertained.
Oh, that's interesting, I say, taking your business card. Tell me more about your company.
Well, if you're tired of picking up a book that you were excited to read and then putting it away because you were so disappointed about character development or lack of story, Women's Thriller Writers Association was created to help writers create better stories. So we produce novels, short stories, and a podcast that helps entertain.
That's actually really good. You could tell Sonia has worked on that, right? So I mean, look at the key points, right? It's like, who's the target audience? What is it that they need, and how is this company fulfilling that need, and what is the product that they produce, right? So we know it's podcasts, or it's books, or it's ebooks, or whatever. So we know what the product is, we know what the customer is, and we know what the customer need is. And then now we're ready to have a more serious conversation. It's like, well, are there other groups doing this? Are there women sci-fi writers, or they're women mystery writers, you know, so we could look into all that. And then we're talking about competition and what your market is like and what your strategies are like. What are your needs? Do you need people? Do you need a marketing person? Because my cousin is in marketing, right? So now we're actually seeing if we can connect and interact productively in some way. So that's an excellent example. Anybody else want to play?
Okay. My name is Hanix Barbosa, and I am a women-owned small business owner. So my elevator speech is I create money strategies to help people reach tax-free retirement distributions. So that's just, it's just the one that I come out because it's the shortest one, because I do many things, and it's in try to get that point is it's a set of strategies that I put together. So everything is within the IRA's corridor, and everything is with the person, their social security is not going to be taxed, and no, there's no taxes in the capital gains or the retirement distribution. So that's is a strategy. So how that sounds?
Yeah, so you know, right away we know what you do and what kind of people you're helping and how you're helping them. So I think that's also effective. You know, I would say to everybody, the pitch can always be improved. So you have to look at every word and make sure, you know, so the fewer words you use, the more powerful they are. So that's what Pat McNamara in ABQID taught us. It's like, slow down your talking, use fewer words, a simpler structure, and then each word becomes more powerful. So, but that is a lot of work. You know, it's a lot easier to talk about your company for 2 minutes than it is for 22 seconds. Anybody else want to try? Oh, Phil, you know you want to. Oh, Miriam, go ahead.
Okay, so I worked on this from a different angle, but same result basically. I'm Miriam Ortiz-Pino with More Than Organized. I'm a certified professional organizer and simplicity expert. I also do many breakthrough business coaching, and I help people craft environments to do their best work and live a fuller life. And here's my card.
See, now that is also really solid, right? I mean, right away, you know, it's like, oh, well, maybe Miriam can help me with my like office and garage, which are catastrophic, and it might be a consequence of my thinking. And if I could straighten my thinking out, maybe I'd be more productive, right? So, I mean, right away, we know the kind of thing she does, and workshops and all kind of stuff, and so we have a possibility for connection. It's like, oh, would you like to speak at, you know, the Rotary next week? Because I'm the president of the Rotary and our guy canceled. And the Rotary, that's very good. And of course, we're not surprised. Most of us know Miriam well.
It also took, I don't know, I only landed on that about 3 years ago. So it took, what, 17 years of really playing with it to get it to where I really love it.
So you've probably had way back when some rambling conversations where you tried to describe what you did, and you could see people's eyes glaze over and then they walked away, right? But when it's focused, right, you engage their interest.
Exactly.
All right, Phil, I know you're up for this.
Okay, I'm Phil Wilson. I founded Strategic Global Group, and we've developed a simple strategic planning process for businesses. And I haven't got to the second bit yet.
Yeah, no, but that's all, you know, that's really straight and to the point, right? I mean, I think all of you can see that these are good. Anybody else want to raise their hand? Sarah.
I want to make a comment for Phil. Phil, you should spell out your name in Zoom, because this helps people remember who you are. They're not going to remember PW. We all know your name's Phil, but
yeah, sorry, I was just rushing through the registration as opposed to.
No worries. I just think it's helpful for people to know who you are.
Sarah, you were going to take a shot.
Okay. My name is Sarah McCord. I use art making to generate liberation of heart and mind and build healthier communities.
Okay, that's really nice. It's really concise. We know who you are and what you do. Do you have a follow-up, 30-second pitch?
No, it's hard. It's hard as an artist. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
sure.
That's a challenge. I'm trying to get people to maybe more about the meaning of my art so I can open it up into larger discussions. And I've also held art workshops. So I'm trying to encompass like a conversation starter for that, as well as the art that I make and sell. I don't know. I'm open to feedback, definitely.
Sure. Does anybody else want to raise a hand?
I just want to come in again, Paul. For everybody that's sitting there, it is really difficult to do. I attended Paul's breakout room about a month or so ago when he did this, and I got copies of all your slides. And so it's taken from then till now for me just to get 30 seconds. All right, to do the follow-up is still something I've got to work on. So it's not easy. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm going to feel like a bit of a fool, you're not. Just blurt it out, because Paul's really good at this and he'll give you pointers on where you need to go.
So I have to say that one of the most valuable things about ABQID when I went through it was Pat McNamara, who was our pitch coach, and it started on day one, right? And it's like, you're going to stand up here and you're going to tell me, your elevator pitch. What does your company do? What is the customer? What is the problem that your product solves? What's your product? What category of product is it? What's the competition? And you're going to tell me all that in 30 seconds. And I have to say, it's really hard. It's actually easier in an accelerator because you're in the room. You can't leave the room without standing up and saying something. They're going to tell you that it's no good and to do it again. And you're going to do that for 8 weeks, right? Until you're ready to do this. So I will concede this is not easy. And just to give you an anecdote, one time we were walking back from a session with Webb Johnson, who was the executive director, and he had a friend along with him at the time. And she asked, well, how do you know that the accelerator is working and that the pitch coaching is working? And I said, when you go home and vomit blood, right? And he had to say, well, that was kind of, if you weren't struggling, if you weren't in pain, you were not working hard enough at it. So we make it look slick because we have polished pitches and we drop them and you say, how do I get there? It must have been easy for you. It was not easy for me. So I will second Phil on that. It is a lot of work. Does anybody else want to give it a try? Go ahead.
Can I say something real quick about
Sure.
the difficulty of it? There's a lot of different ways to do elevator pitches. And I know I worked through 5 or 6 different methodologies of doing it. And then I would say it and I'm like, this is so not me. Like technically it was correct, but it was hard to say. And so it came off as really halting and stuttery. And so there's a really important piece of practicing it. And when you get the right one, it's like, everything's just right and it feels good. And you're like, I can say that over and over and over. And I will get the right people. So know that there's a certain amount of practice until it sounds like Pass the Salt as well.
Okay, Will.
Hey, good morning. I'm Will Boletto here with Daniels Insurance. My elevator pitch usually goes, what I like to do is help New Mexico business owners navigate the complex world of employee benefits. My why and why I'm in this business is to help New Mexico business owners compete with national brands. I got confused one time and left working local, and I went to a Fortune 500 because of benefits. But the culture wasn't what I wanted. So if you are struggling to retain that top talent or attract it, I'd love to educate you.
All right, that's actually really appealing because I think a lot of people have had that problem, right? So, I mean, it's going to be a common experience. Either they personally had it or they know somebody who had it or they lie awake at night thinking about it. And you are their guy, right? So I do like that one also. Anybody else?
Paul.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a comment. I was looking over here in the chat, and I think what Honix put in the chat for her introduction is a great opening. We're sitting here trying to do these elevator speeches, and we all have a little burst of adrenaline when we have to pass this test in front of our colleagues. And so, but I really like what she put there in the chat. And just for starters, so it's also that easy.
Yeah, so we're all looking at the chat. You've got your name, your company name, your website, and yeah, it's really clear what you do. So what I was put in the chat is that we're a biotechnology a company that develops and sells genetic tests for horses. And again, that's the same level of detail that you need. So is there anybody else? We'll go 1, 2, 3, and then if nobody else wants to throw something in, we'll switch to slides, and I'll show you one path to this. Anybody else want to try?
Oh, real quick, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
It's Joey Gutierrez at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to let all of you know, and I'll post it in the chat, we will be having a community day this Friday, and it's a drive-through PPE drive, but there's going to be 60 vendors handing out stuff to small businesses, anywhere from raffle tickets to advertising space. So if you guys register, I'll post it in chat.
Awesome.
Please drive
JJ,
through.
well, can
Joey.
you send that info to Eric? He's doing events and announcements after this.
Oh, okay. I will.
Okay, so I'm going to switch to slides, and I'm going to show you one structure, and I want to echo what Miriam said. There's a lot of ways to get here. So this elevator pitch is aimed at describing a company, a customer base, a product, a need that satisfies in a comparison with the competition, all in a very short period of time. So let me share my screen. Okay, so you've heard my short pitch, which is I'm Paul Sauter, founder and chief scientific officer of Equiseq. We develop and sell genetic tests for horses. So on this slide, because people don't immediately know what Equiseq is, it's genetic testing of horses. So that's basically the fast introduction. And then my full elevator speech is for horse breeders seeking to breed sound horses. Equiseq's myopathy panel is a DNA test that identifies horses at risk for a muscle wasting disease before they develop symptoms. And unlike muscle biopsy, Equiseq's DNA test is non-invasive. We just need a hair sample. So how did we get there? All right, so that is my short pitch. And you see that I do that verbatim, just from many, many years of practice. And this is what it contains, right? Your name, your title, your company. What kind of company are you? Are you financial services? Are you biotechnology? Are you an engineering firm? What kind of company, what bin do you fall in? And then one line. So we develop and sell genetic tests for horses. So when we did the workshop, everybody looked at this for a little while. Okay, your name, that's an easy part. Your title, you got that, your company. What company type are you? That's kind of important, because if you dive right into what you do, people don't know whether you're a software firm or an insurance firm or financial services or whatever. It helps to just give them a category and then a brief intro about what you do. And most of you who've done at least the introduction pitch here have done a good job of doing that. Some people have omitted their company type because they think it's obvious. It's not obvious to people who are just meeting you. So I'd recommend that. And by the way, anybody wants these slides or the template, I'll be glad to email them to you. You can just drop your name in the chat or email me. Okay, so that's the slide I typically introduce myself in. And at the beginning of a Million Cups talk or any other kind of talk, I always include the elevator pitch just right off the bat, because it really, people want to know what level of attention they have to pay to you. And if you've seen my Million Cups presentation, you always see the elevator pitches right up there at the first slide. Okay, so that is my elevator pitch, and you've heard it a couple of times now. So what's the structure? How do you build that? And this is taken from a really excellent book that I've given away many copies of called Game Storming. And Game Storming is a set of practices from Silicon Valley. How do people solve open-ended problems? How do they come up with ideas? And an elevator pitch is kind of an open-ended problem. because you want to know, like, how am I going to connect with other people, tell them what my company does, what product category we are, what problem we're solving without wasting any of their time. So are we going to have a second conversation? Are they going to ask a follow-up question, or are they going to walk away? And we're not going to waste their time. So here is the structure for target customer, right? So for, let's take Sonia's case. For people who are tired of reading airport novels that don't have, great women protagonists, right? Who has customer need, who needs a page turner to get through the delay at the airport, product name, remind me of your product name, Sonia. It's a women's.
We're the
writers.
Women's Thriller Writers Association.
Yes, the Women's Thrillers Writers Association is and the market category would be, it's a trade group, basically, right? That one key benefit, that melts away time at the airport, unlike Clive Cussler, who, and then how are you different, right? So if you're talking to the right person, they're like, yeah, I got so sick of buying those airport novels that I just stare at the walls now or play with my phone on Facebook. I wish there was something decent for me to read, right? And there you are, right? So you've got to think about, and again, your company might have multiple products, but you could pick one, that's your flagship product, and what's the product name, and what market category does it fit in? What's the one key benefit that differentiates it from the competition? All right, so there you go. And here is how. I have a question. Sure, go ahead.
What about if a company has a different kinds of products? They have this product and they have another different categories of products.
Yeah, so it would be unusual for a company to have products that are not related in some way. So let's say my company sells cleaning products, right? So, okay, they have multiple different names, but, for, people seeking to clean office space in the COVID era, right? That would be like everybody. Our line of cleaning products, instead of a specific product name, is a disinfectant cleanser that, one key benefit is, proven to kill COVID, unlike, soap and water. And it does this, and this is your benefit, right? So you could just take all of your products and say our line of products, because they're related in some way. But if you're Amazon, what's your product? Your product is you ship everything, right? And so Amazon is a one-stop shop that, finds everything that you need and recommends other things to you, right? So if you go into Walmart and you pull something off the shelf, it doesn't say, oh, you might be interested in this also, right? So when you're on Amazon, it does that. So think about writing an elevator pitch for Amazon. So it's not a one product, it's a place, right?
Well, Paul, you can also think of it as what you're leading for in that moment. So, I have the difficulty as well, because there's organizing and there's coaching, and it's always, which audience am I actually speaking to in the moment that I lead with? So you can have like you said, one for the overall product line, and then one for each different thing you do or sell, depending on where you are and who you're talking to.
Yeah, so I really like that. So for a coaching session, it's basically everybody has this need, right? They just don't acknowledge it, right? Until they're in a lot of pain, right? So you would definitely have a different pitch for that. Yeah, so those are good points. That's a way to deal with if you have a range of products, and it does not hurt to have multiple elevator pitches for different people. So anyway, that's how the EquiSeek elevator pitch was developed using this structure. We have a target customer. Those aren't our only customers, but it helps to explain what we're doing and why. And, what does the customer need, and this is kind of designed, and this is something that came out of discussion in December. You don't want people to reject the customer need, so for horse breeders seeking to breed sound horses, well, who wouldn't want to do that, right? Well, people who are more interested in money than animal welfare, but like the person you're talking to is not going to identify themselves as such a person, right? So they're not going to pick a fight with you over that. So what's our product name? It's Equiseek's Myopathy Panel. What is it? It's a DNA test. And what does it do? It identifies horses at risk for this disease before they develop symptoms. What's the competition? Muscle biopsy. You might not know what that is, but it doesn't sound like fun, and it's not. And we're non-invasive. That's a key benefit. There are other benefits, but that would be a follow-up question. So one of the other benefits is that our test is predictive, and muscle biopsy is not. Muscle biopsy detects a disease state, and our test detects the propensity to develop that disease state. So that's, again, for follow-up discussion. So there's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor when you write an elevator pitch, because you're hoping for follow-up questions. But again, if you're talking to somebody who is never going to make a connection with you for any reason, they don't need all that stuff. And if they are going to make a connection with you, they will ask the follow-up questions. And of course, you're prepared to answer those. So, I mean, I know everybody always wants to explain everything about their company, but the most efficient way to do it is just to hit these bullet points and see what happens and not waste people's time. So, your elevator pitch, you can think about all of these things. And then it's just a matter of getting the language right, getting it so that it's your language and you're comfortable with it. The structure is formal and it is uncomfortable, but it is efficient, right? If you have another way to get there, fine. But if you're not going to tag all of these bases, you have to have a pretty good reason to not tag one of those bases. And yeah, so how are you better than the competition? What is the competition? There's always competition. If you're doing something that you consider to be completely novel, the competition is the status quo. There are people who have not yet adopted your solution. So you should think about, what do they do when they're trying to solve this problem that you solve? And, why are they at a disadvantage? All right, so that's my pitch, and I'm going to stop sharing. Ooh, I'm not very good at that. Right, there we go. All right, now it is completely unfair to ask anyone to have taken notes during all that, and now they're ready to go, right? Because that would negate the point that we made earlier that it takes time to develop this. So I'm going to put my email in the chat, and if any of you want the slide deck, or even simpler, just the template that's taken from Gamestorming, email me at my email address, and I can send you either or both of those things.
I just want to put out there too, one of the things that helped me with my pitch was figuring out what the real pain is. And because I'm doing a project with creative startups right now, and they're having all of us who are working on these new companies search for the pain. So I'm interviewing people as to why they put down books. And so, there's so many reasons. So just the act of buying a book and putting it away because you're not going to read it is the pain for people. So that's why it's in my pitch. So you might want to consider exploring the pain.
So the other thing, that I'm interested in Sonia's business is that, so I've worked in mentoring to try to track underrepresented minority students into STEM careers. And one of the problems is people don't see themselves in that role. They don't see people like them, right? And so, part of the training in that is like, okay, you go back to like, how did I get interested in science? What were the things when I was a little kid that made me interested, that drew me into it? So what are the, and some of it is fiction, right? So what are the works of fiction, books or movies or cartoons that feature people that you could identify with that are doing things that you are thinking you might aspire to do, right? So that's another need that Sonia is fulfilling. There are a lot of women who just, they don't want to present at Million Cups because they're scared of public speaking, right? And then you see these women giving TED Talks, and they're fantastic, right? And you're like, well, how do I get to where they are, right? And then maybe you read an adventure novel with a female hero, and you're like, well, standing up in front of people isn't quite as bad as cutting my way through the jungle with a machete full of snakes, so maybe I could do that, right? So there's a deeper need that Sonia's books are fulfilling, and it helps people to aspire and develop to do things, because especially if they haven't felt included before.
I'm glad you got that from All I'm Doing, because that's what I'm working on.
Well, sure. Anybody else? Comments on all this? It is really artificial, I will concede that, and the solution to that is just to practice it and beat on the language until it works, and try it out in front of a lot of people.
Paul, one thought I had was several years ago, I ran a business that had a whole host of services and products. And one of the challenges for the salespeople making their pitch is there's a tendency to want to run through all of the things that you do. And what I tried to get across to them was, it takes intense listening while you're talking to look at the nonverbal. And I call it the eyebrow response. When you're talking about your services, if someone's eyebrow goes up, stop talking and focus on that particular service or product, because they just expressed an interest. And I remember sitting with a salesperson, she was going and she wanted to go through the whole list. And I saw his eyebrow go up. She talked right past it. And then she said, "Is there anything you're interested in?" And he said, "No." She totally missed the point. And I think it's a talent that you need to develop, that ability to intensely listen while you're talking, because people will give you those, particularly nonverbal responses. But if you're not listening, you will miss it, and that's a danger.
And the easiest way to be able to listen is to be so scripted that you could do it in your sleep, right? If five guys in ski masks woke you up in the middle of the night with guns, right, you could do your elevator pitch, right? And
Right.
So while you're doing that, you're watching the other person, because you're on autopilot. You're not thinking of what to say. You're completely scripted. So you watch them, and where did they light up? What was it that interested them? Was it your ability to identify a pain point? Was it a description of your competition? Something that you said connected, and then you get quiet and you wait.
Yeah, and to your point about public speaking, my training is as an actor, and what that, at the essence of it, is looking natural doing an unnatural act. It is not natural to stand in front of a group of people and talk. But you have to find your passion. One of the things when I taught public speaking is telling people, well, first of all, they can't shoot you. So the worst that could be happen is maybe they don't enjoy your talk, but you will survive this, although you think you're going to die. And you just start breaking in. I would recommend you find a coach, because again, it's an unnatural act, and you don't just get there by getting confidence. I don't know how you just get confidence. It's a process, And
Yeah,
the process is
takes a long
believing,
time.
knowing what you're talking about, believing in what you're talking about, and having a conversation with that group of people. That's kind of the essence of public speaking. And if you can find a coach that can help you get there, then you can find there's actually enjoyment in it.
So, Alan, since you have a background in Shakespeare, it reminds me of a story I'm going to tell you that that shows that people accept certain conventions because they're used to them. And then if you present them with a convention they're not used to or something that breaks the mold, they say it's unnatural, but the entire experience is unnatural. And the thing I'm talking about is someone had seen the Richard III film, which is set during World War II. And, so it uses modern costumes, which is a sort of economy, because if they use 20th century costumes and someone walks in a room, you can tell whether that person is a soldier, whether they're rich or poor, whether they're a laborer. So you can tell what they do by looking at them. And if we use Elizabethan costumes, nobody knows, well, a historian will know, but a general audience won't know who that person is and what they do and what their status is, right? So, that's why the 20th century setting is useful in something like Richard III on film. And the person I talked to said, well, I just couldn't get used to it. It seemed so unnatural that they were speaking that language, that Shakespearean language. I'm like, you're sitting in a dark room looking at 32 frames a second while people are eating popcorn around you. What's natural about that? It's just that you've accepted those conventions. And the only thing that was novel to you in that experience was characters in 20th century costumes using Elizabethan English, and that's the part that they found weird. And I'm like, but the whole thing is weird, but it's a common experience. So if somebody gives you an elevator pitch with that structure that I used, of course it's unnatural, but it's efficient and they're ready to ask you a question. So
just to your point, the most unusual acting experience I had was doing Romeo and Juliet in beer pubs in modern dress. And knowing that half the audience would never go see Shakespeare if it wasn't in a beer pub, and having people accept it and enjoy it. And it's just setting aside your need to have something natural. You're exactly right. It's the suspension of belief that allows us to go to a movie theater and watch any movie.
And here we are on Zoom, looking at little jerky pictures of people, and we're imagining that, we have a donut in our hand and coffee and we're at Fat Pipe, right? So we've managed to overcome those limitations here as well. So, we've used a lot of time. Let me just wrap that up and say, I've put my email in the chat. So if anybody wants the slides or notes, I'll be glad to send them to you. And I encourage all of you to work on your elevator pitch because it is time well spent. It is not pleasant time, but it is ultimately rewarding. So we're going to have breakout rooms. I'll kick it over to Eric for events.
It's pleasant when you're involved, Paul.
Well, thank you. I try to be nice because I know how much it hurts.
No, that's always great. Thank you so much, Paul. It's really valuable. And again, like I said in the chat, I just learn something new every time, but that practice is so important. I'm going to run down a handful of different events and I'm going to throw them in the chat as well. So let's see, immediately after this, I think you can still sign up. There's an Agile marketing workshop that John Bell is doing with Activate NM that runs from 10 to 12. This Thursday, there is Always Taza, which is the bilingual sort of version of 1 Million Cups. And that's based at South Valley Economic Development Center. But like us, it involves all sorts of different kinds of entrepreneurs, but it's done in a bilingual fashion. If you're interested in getting support from the labs for a technical problem or a science problem related to a venture that you're involved with, New Mexico's Small Business Assistance Program involving the labs is really helpful. And they've got an information session on that from 11 to noon tomorrow. And this Friday, I think Adam may have mentioned this, but Adam's Friday flow, we'll have a special guest, which is Phil Wilton. He'll be running that shop. Partially because Adam's going to be involved with the special community day that Spano Chamber of Commerce is doing. That runs from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and I'll put the link in there. But they've got drive-up service and some other benefits for small business, including a lot of PPP that's available for your small business. A couple of highlights from following week. Next Tuesday, the New Mexico User Experience Group. That's for how do you get your UX down. They're doing design for accessibility. The group's been a little dormant, so it's great to see them back, and that's Tuesday night. And then on more kick-ass entrepreneurs, they're featuring Revolution Bakery, and that is Thursday afternoon, evening. Again, I'll throw all these things in the chat and hope to see you in an event sometime soon. I think I am handing off to Charles. Is that correct?
Yes, sorry, I'm trying to get that elusive mute button. It escapes me sometimes. So we wanted to do a lightning round today, and a lightning round would be basically you introducing your business or your service quickly, or talking about an update or something of that nature within your business. So if you would like to share, please do so. And if we could keep it under a minute or so, I'll actually, I'll get us started off. So my name is Charles Garrison. I own X10 Marketing Agency. We're a digital marketing agency here in Albuquerque. Right now we're expanding, we're growing, and we just hired our first full-time employee a week ago, and she starts pretty soon. And we're actually working on a second full-time employee coming up in the next 2 weeks as well. All right, who's next?
I'll jump in there. Oh, go for it, Jason.
Just my update is that last week I got PPP second draw from the same institution I got the first draw back in the spring, which was, for me, was paper, and they had all my documents and stuff like that. So it was, than me messing up with their website, it was actually easier than the time. It just took a little bit longer. But if your business got PPP first draw, I encourage you to check out PPP second draw.
Great, thanks Jason.
Hi, it's me, Phil Wilton again. So after a successful University of New Mexico hour and a half on talking to students about business strategy, on Friday's flow, we're going to be having an open discussion on strategies and what it means and why you do it and how you do it. And you can learn about disruptive strategies, inflection points, and all kinds of other things. So look forward to seeing people on Friday.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil.
Cool. Well, I'm Sonia Doing from Plot Duckies, and we publish awesome stories from female writers. And our latest book, Gramitas Tortillas, not only did she do a successful crowdfunding so she could pay for her illustrator, but she just got invited to the National Hispanic Cultural Center to do a cooking demonstration coming up for a special cultural day. So, and it's Gramitas Tortillas. It's a bilingual children's book. So that's my update.
I just ordered that for my niece. It's lovely.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess. So I'm Miriam Ortiz-Pino, certified professional organizer and money business breakthrough coach. And I've got a workshop coming up. So if you have problems with your information in the form of paper mostly, but also digital information and how to deal with your distraction of information, your complete paper solution starts on March 11th. And I go into how to set up a system so it's a flow of paper and information rather than piles of it everywhere. If you're interested.
Awesome. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to jump in. Sorry, I'm Sarah McCord. I'm a visual artist. I haven't been doing workshops since COVID, but I do have a show coming up with lots of other artists. I think there's 34 artists at Tortuga Gallery on First Friday coming up for the Put a Bird on It show. So I'm excited about that. I'll be there live and in person, so bring a mask and bring a little cash. There'll be prints for sale as well. And then I also have an upcoming show that I'm creating an original body of work for at the Center for Peace and Justice coming up in June. And 20% of the proceeds go to support them. So I'm really excited about that. My work is around the theme of social justice work that I do, and it will go to support social justice. So please keep an eye peeled for that. Thank you.
Great.
Awesome. And real quick, again, Joey Gutierrez with the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. We are doing a ton of stuff starting Friday. I hope all of you can get out, and if you can spread the word to any business, organization, nonprofit, you name it, just register, stop on in. Tons of prizes, tons of free stuff. It's completely free, but PPE is the most important part. So come pick up your PPE supplies and then connect with the chamber. We're helping artisans, small business, everything open back up. And we are following the rules and everything, but we have a ton of resources for you guys, and we'd love to work with you. But I love hearing everything that everyone's saying. It's exciting.
Awesome. Okay, I'm Hanik Sayasto. I help people with the money strategies. Something that I want to invite you guys to understand the way why I'm doing this is to read The Power of Zero. And also I wrote an article in how the taxes are coming up and the national debt, because we have two debts. We have the national debt and we have off the books debt. One of the books debt is the Social Security pensions, and that it makes the fiscal gap huge. So the taxation is going up, and we are in the lowest tax bracket in history. So I am supporting that in my blog, and I invite you at the end of the blog to watch the movie that is at the end of that blog.
Jonix, do you have a link to your blog in the chat?
Yes, I just wrote it down. It says hanixlife.com/blog. I put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else for the lightning round?
I got something new to health insurance that a lot of my peers aren't talking about. It's called an ICHRA. It became legal in 2020. It's an expansion of the HRAs. But what this really does is it allows business owners of any size to get a health insurance business and get into the contribution business. So instead of managing a plan and picking a plan for all your employees, you can allow your employees to go to the individual marketplace and pick a plan that works for them and pay them back. It's about 20% cheaper, and the benefits do not suffer from this offering.
Wait, well, you said health insurance?
Yes, group health insurance.
I didn't think that was even legal. I would love to learn more.
Awesome. I will chat you.
Thanks.
Hey everyone, this is Dominic Pruitt. I know Eric for quite a long time, but I usually don't make these because I'm always teaching around this time too. So this week I wasn't doing much anything. From a teaching perspective, just so everyone knows, more of an introduction, I'm a technical seller. I work for IBM, and I focus on flash storage technologies and data resiliency. Some of the things that I cover are business continuity, disaster recovery, data, cybersecurity. Moved back to home here about 11 years ago, but I grew up on the Pueblo of Laguna Reservation. So in the tech space, a lot of the things that I'm dealing with now are the move to containerization. So virtual machines, containerization, how do you store your data persistently? How do you make copies of it? How do you, fail over to different things in case events happen and events happen? So great to meet everybody.
Joe, would you breakout rooms? You guys still want to go to breakout rooms? All right. I have 3 breakout rooms. We have COVID-19 with Paul Sauter, Community Connections with Eric Renz Whitmore, and What's Your Quest with Adam Brechtel. Thanks, Will. So once I open up the room, if you've been pre-assigned, you'll get a pop-up, and otherwise you can use your breakout rooms button in the toolbar on the bottom to go into your own room. So let's say goodbye to our